Okay, so Blizzard have just released a Q&A session where I think they've taken around an hour. So it's like half an hour for retail and half an hour for Cataclysm Classic and for Season of Discovery. And they're basically just going through and answering any of the questions that came up at BlizzCon, when you could submit questions in person or you could submit questions on forums and on Reddit and stuff. And they're basically going to spend half an hour going through. This section that we're going to watch right now is the Cataclysm Classic and obviously Season of Discovery Q&A. So let's just see. I'm not expecting like any groundbreaking news to come out, to be honest.
Let's jump into a Q&A with the Classic team. Please introduce
They've been pretty transparent already anyway.
Hi, I am Ana Resendes, one of the two lead software engineers in the World of Warcraft Classic team.
Hi, legend.
I'm Claystone, Associate Production Director on the WoW Classic team.
And I'm Tim Jones. I'm the assistant lead game designer on the World of
Happiest
Warcraft
man in Warcraft, this guy.
Thank you for joining. Let's go straight into the questions
Tim is a hero.
Our first question is from many players all around the world. Why didn't you announce Wrath Era Realms?
You know,
Good question.
We in the Classic team is the moment where we're having the most offerings we have ever had in the past. You know, we
True.
get to have the new season coming up, Hardcore. You can also go to the Classic Era servers. Wrath of the Lich King, and then Wrath of the Lich King is going to be moving into Cataclysm. So when...
Yeah, I have to say, like, being a World of Warcraft fan right now is the best time that we've probably ever had in the history of the game, other than, like, you know, the huge peaks when Vanilla, then TBC, then Wrath were actually live in the mix. But you can play so many different versions of all these different versions of our favorite game. We're eating pretty well, but it still is just those weird moments where it's like, is the community out of touch of itself? Are there too many different groups in the community that are like splintered and fractured up and it's hard to please everyone? Yes. But at the same time, like, having one subscription that is just never going to end because you've always got someone bouncing from one version of the game to the other and just being in your ecosystem, is that not the dream? Like, I don't see why they wouldn't have a Wrath server. So let's find out.
Thinking about all these offerings that the Classic team has at the moment, we were very conscious about not wanting to further fragment the population and where people want to join into this journey. So we currently don't have plans to do so. That said, on the technical side, when we implemented Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, we were like super focused to make sure that whenever we want to bring those experiences again, it's going to be not such a hard time as it was the first time. Like, we implemented it with in mind that it's gonna come back at some point.
Right. Yeah, I just disagree. I think it would have been fine to spin up a Wrath server and to even if it was a paid copy, just to allow people to save that and then have that server just live on in its end state on maintenance mode, pretty much just like Era does. I mean, they didn't do it with TBC. I think that might be why they've just not done it with Wrath as well, is because they are acting on data that they've got for player base and surveys and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I just can't see it being that resource intensive to have one server running for EU, NA, etc. and just have everyone's copy live there. And yeah, fine. If everyone decided to play concurrently, yeah, you would be in a bit of a pickle. But it's just not going to happen.
Our next question is from Macaulay from the EU server of Ravencrest. Can you please share more specifically what is your current idea on the increased leveling speed from 1 to 80?
Yeah, so
the thing that like stuck out to me when they talked about speeding up the process at BlizzCon was that 1 to 60 is already getting revamped with the Cataclysm, right? And that whole process, calling back to my memories of actually playing it when it was live, making a new character and going through 1 to 60 was super quick and super easy. And like with the even more refined sort of like hub-based questing system that they had in the game started to come in with TBC, and then more refined in Wrath, and it was really good. And then Cata, it was like down to a fine art, and so much that when you got close to finishing all the quests in a zone, you'd have your quest log and it would be like man, these are all green. I need to go. Like, I shouldn't really stay here anymore. I'm starting to be, well, it's not that you shouldn't stay, but you're starting to be inefficient, so you're probably going to get kicked. But yeah, that's a bit of a weird one. Hopefully, they're going to suggest they're actually going to focus on speeding up specifically the Outland section. I remember it feeling really, really bad trying to level again in Cata. And also, big disconnect. You're going through a portal into outer space. Bit weird, but also cool. And then you go to Northrend, and it's even closer to the refinement that you're expecting. And Northrend goes relatively fast anyway. I don't like recall it being particularly slow, but definitely the TBC part, if not the RAF part, needs to be tweaked to be sped up a little bit. And then once you get to 80, you're golden.
Whenever we bring an expansion like Burning Crusade or Wrath Classic, and now Cataclysm Classic, we feel like we have a really good opportunity to sort of reframe that expansion, and that's sort of where the genesis for a lot of our hashtag some changes come from. And when we think about the leveling speed, when we think about Cataclysm specifically, there's a renewed focus on Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor and that level 1 to 60 journey. That the level 60 to 80 journey being spent in Outland and in Northrend kind of doesn't feel like it's a part of. So what I would expect is for that level 1 to 60 journey with its hundreds of new quests, we expect a lot of players to be there, either brand new players or returning players. And we might not make as many adjustments to that 1 to 60 portion, although I will say we've been incredibly pleased with how well Joyous Journeys has been received every time that we've been able to bring it back for Wrath. It's actually live right now in Wrath Classic. So I would expect to see that from time to time for that level 1 to 60 journey. But the focus, I think, of our leveling changes there are really going to be focused on that Outland and Northrend experience before players return from Northrend at level 80 to complete their level 80 to 85 journey.
Right.
In the main two
went a weird way
of
saying
Azeroth.
that.
So I would expect to see just some experience increases there, similar to what you would see with Joyous Journeys. Not to take away from any of the content in those level bands, but certainly to get people a little bit quicker to that 80 to 85 portion once they reach that section.
I wouldn't be concerned about taking away from content in those areas, because pretty much the way that expansions have been and all of WoW's game design up until these announcements for retail, which are hype, by the way, it all makes previous content redundant. It makes everything, it's incredibly vertical progression. And so I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I'd say whack Joyous Journeys on, and fucking leave it on, man. Just let people zoom and get to 80 quick, and then they can start actually playing Cata. Because leveling is massively part of content, and it's one of my favorite parts of the game, but it seems to just be not the majorities. So send it.
Our next question is from Tom L on ATS server. What will be done to make guilds more accessible and useful in Cata?
Ooh, I wonder if they're going to mention like farming up people into a guild to just get all the perks quickly, and I don't know, get some like gold tax or something like that. There was like some kind of system. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm not really a Cata fan. Can't remember it that strongly, but I swear you could just like farm up guilds and get people passively playing, donating some money into your guild bank, and you just like break it in.
Yeah, so this is another one.
And also
where
smaller guilds would take longer to get to max guild rank level.
There's two sort of components that we think about guilds from. One, making smaller guilds more viable or on more of an equal playing field as the larger guilds, and then two, reducing some of the toxicity that was kind of introduced back then. If we look at that one first, there was a guild perk that existed where for however many members you had within your guild, every time that they would loot gold, the guild would receive a portion.
Okay, there we go. Yeah,
of that.
that's what I meant.
And so it basically then made it super impactful or important for a lot of guilds just to spam invites and try to get as many members as possible.
Just remove it.
I think that's certainly one area that we want to address. And then the other section on the smaller guilds,
Take it out.
there are guild experience caps, both daily and weekly, and challenges that players are being tasked with to overcome on a weekly basis. And the larger guilds have a much easier time being able to do that. So I would expect that as we look at what we can do there, I would expect that some of those challenges or experience gains or the ability to reach those experience caps may be adjusted so that smaller guilds can participate in
have
that
them
and
scale.
unlock some of the perks on a more
make it a
equal
little
playing
more
field
fair.
as the larger guilds.
All right, our next question is from Awesome on the Paggle server. Can we expect to see the return of the disenchantment button when items are being rolled out?
I mean,
Yeah, short answer, yes.
swear that was in
we're
Wrath.
planning on doing that on Cataclysm.
okay, so it's in
That's a
Cat.
short answer.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because it's not been in
As
Wrath.
simple as that. Yeah.
Our next question is from Lilyberry
Okay.
on Grobula server. Is there any solution coming in Cata for the gear score meta making it impossible to gear up alts? Because I get constantly rejected by groups.
Yeah, there's a lot of content that was both part of Wrath of Lich King Classic, like the Titan Rune dungeon system. It really allowed players to continue to explore dungeon groups now through the random dungeon finder. There's more ease for players to get into that and find groups easily, and really get the items that you need
Should
to
have
be
had
able
that
to,
in from the
to
beginning.
eventually jump into raids.
Yeah, and this is something that we're gonna keep monitoring towards, not just when Cataclysm starts, but also when the pre-patch comes in, and a lot of people might be coming back to the game and
When
trying
pre-patch?
to experience all of the content. So we're gonna be looking into it and making sure that we're always on the looks of finding ways that it could potentially ease that. Like as Tim mentioned, the Titan Rune dungeons is kind of an idea of that, and there's always like different steps to get there. We know that Titan Rune dungeons, we acknowledge that they might be a little bit of a steep step for a newer character, so you can always start, your journey going into normal dungeons or the heroic versions eventually, or through PvP and getting some gear so you're ready for those catch-up mechanics that we have, like the Titan Rune dungeons. That will be coming into Cataclysm in a different form.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what actual what they have like up their sleeves for tweaking to improve on that system and to make it easier to acquire gear on like newer characters and whatever else, and get in, like she said, like it's a steep step. I don't know, man. I feel like there's a good amount of offerings and avenues for you to go down, enough as it is, but if that's not enough, I really am interested to find out what else can you do to tweak the system or introduce more layers to it. It'd be interesting to see.
Our next question comes from SageMan1923 on the Classic WoW subreddit. Could we possibly get a roadmap of the future level caps?
Yeah, so
we
Season
already
of
got it.
Discovery and the level caps.
Sod hype.
I guess just to recap sort of what those level caps are, we're starting at level 25. After level 25, we're going to raise the level cap to 40,
Yeah.
raise it to 50, and then we're going to
Yeah.
raise it to 60, and of course have all of the end-game content after 60. When we think about the timing for those, we're not ready just yet to say when they're coming.
Because so many devs have been so like apprehensively, I wouldn't say loose, maybe like tentative in their replies on it. But from my understanding that I've got in my other video where I break down all the information from BlizzCon's weekend about Season of Discovery, so everything you need to know, you can watch that video somewhere where I'm pointing. I'll do the thing. But yeah, like it's going to be no less than 1 month, no longer than 3 months, 4 months at the absolute max is what we can gather from like several different several different times that devs have been like, oh, I don't know if I can actually say, I don't want to put a time frame on it. Yeah.
There's an element of flexibility in there that we want to be able to maintain. Part of the inspiration for this was back when the original Classic beta was live prior to its launch in 2019. It was so cool to see the new metas that developed and what an end game at level 30
Yeah,
or level
I wish
40,
I had
I think it was, were the two level caps that we used, what that looked like. So when we think about the roadmap and the timetable for when we'll be increasing these level caps for Season of Discovery, we really want to give enough time for that meta to develop and for players to be able to experience that end game at each of these level caps.
Okay.
So you won't have to wait too long, but we want to give it a little bit more time to see, how the first one at level 25 performs, and kind of use that as a basis for when we want to start moving on to the next ones.
He didn't answer.
Our next question from Asadai on the Chrome Crush server. Will content from previous level caps remain relevant from chapter to chapter as the level cap is increased?
Yeah, absolutely. The beauty of making level up content is that we're adding new things to the outdoor world, and even as phases progress and people jump in that weren't playing in phase 1, or people making alts because they can't wait to see what kind of runes that other classes have to offer, they're going.
Well, I mean, Wowhead data mining is maybe taking the wind out of the sails for phase 1 at least, but I'm confident that the rest of the phases aren't going to be data mined because there won't be PTRs for those. So, and also I think Agrin on Twitter, one of the WoW devs, he has come and gave some clarification that not everything that is in the build that has been data mined will be available. So small caveat of at least there will still be some kind of degree of discovery around those things that have been data mined. It is what it is, man. You don't want spoilers, don't click the link and read it.
I'm going to be leveling through Azeroth again, and the new content, the new rune discoveries that we added to zones all throughout the world, people get to experience that. So that will definitely be relevant content to the level up experience all throughout the lifespan of Season of Discovery.
Yeah,
we also
cool.
hope that the content like our level up raids, that people feel comfortable incorporating those into their level up journeys. Mm-hmm. So if you're in phase 2 or beyond and you can get a group together in your mid 20s, then why not run Black Fathom Deeps a couple times, get a couple great pieces of gear and use that to help level yourself up.
Yeah, that's going to be sick.
One of those new items that we're creating.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that I'm thinking about it, aside from hopping in with the boys and whatnot, on original Classic launch, we could still group up into 10 players and go into Scarlet Monastery earlier, lower level wise, but because of our sheer numbers, we could still do that and get insane XP and whatever else, and do spell cleave, melee cleave, whatever. But you'd also do that for starting to get yourself into lower Black Rock Spire, upper Black Rock Spire, all that kind of jazz. You'd still be doing you could go in and do 10-man big pools and I'm pretty sure that it's gonna remind me very much of how fun that was, because it's such a different feeling of being oh, this is just a bit bigger than a normal dungeon, and of course extra loot, it's a great incentive, and then the mechanics and everything else should be fun.
All right, our next question is from Malzar with the guild Jolly Roger. They ask, is it reasonable to assume that classic raids will eventually come to Season of Discovery as well, such as being able to acquire Atiash?
Yeah. So yes, absolutely.
Of course,
so many of those raids are so iconic. We absolutely want to include them. I think at this point, thinking about the Season of Discovery twist on everything, it's possible that they could also come with some changes. When we think about that, we think about some of the work that we did on Season of Mastery as kind of being within the realm of adjustments or additions that we might make to them. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, we're still discussing it, and we recognize that players' characters that'll be coming to each of these are going to have access to tons of new abilities. And that's kind of going to bring a fresh spin on these raids as they exist without any changes or additions. So something that we're still in discussion on, but the raids will absolutely be there.
I've got a little bit more information on that in my video that I mentioned earlier, all about everything covered from Season of Discovery, but they have mentioned that they would consider even messing with the order in which you do certain raids. So it would it doesn't have to be Oni, then MC, and then BWL, blah, blah, blah. Like, they could mess around with it and, do that kind of stuff. And they're open to not just doing that kind of stuff and tweaking the difficulty of the raids with extra mechanics, not the way they did it in Season of Mastery, though, because it wasn't that great at all. But they have also reiterated that they really want to go and explore the unanswered questions, unfinished quest lines, and cut content from original vanilla. So this really is going to be Classic Plus, and I'm just so hyped.
Maldazar has a second question, and they ask, are there any plans to introduce any new legendary items for Season of Discovery, such as the original Ashbringer or Frostmourne?
That would be very cool.
I think we're so excited to explore sort of the unfinished storylines or quests that abruptly ended, like what's behind the gates of Timbermaw Hold in Azshara, or why does the quest line...
Willie called it. If you haven't watched this video, I'll probably fucking link it down below. You know what? Oh, mate. Big Timbermaw Hold raid would be insane.
And for the Shade of Aranicus gem abruptly end in Winterspring, we're super excited to explore continuing those storylines or quests when it's appropriate and when it is respectful of content that was eventually explored in future expansions.
Sick.
Our next question comes from Sir Thunderpaws on the...
Again, sorry, I need to, let me go back and then back and then back. Oh, it's not even going back. Oh my God, I'm so bad. This man is a treasure.
Our next question comes from Sir Thunderpaws on the Classic WoW subreddit. What are you going to do to address gold inflation, gold buying, and buying?
Yo! Big, huge question. Please give us a not a nothing answer. Come on.
Yeah. So this kind of activity and the impact that it has is incredibly important to us. Not just as developers of the game, but also as players of the game ourselves. So it's something that the team is incredibly focused on, almost nonstop.
I'm sure it isn't always a problem.
This, and we think about the tools that we have at our disposal, it gets challenging to get into specifics on it, because the more that we talk about it and the more that we talk about how
they've
we
given this
work on this
before,
or
it
the
does make
areas that we work on to help address it, the more self-defeating it can become.
Yeah, you give the game away.
Because of that level of insight that we're giving into it. So I would say that I'm sure some players have noticed the occasional instance where an instance might close for a little bit with not very much warning, and then may reopen. Those could be areas where some of our team are making some changes due to some activity that we've seen in those spaces.
Oh, okay. So what? They would actually hotfix live an instance in a certain way to upset whatever path that the bot's been programmed to take. Big if true.
I think
I'm sure it's true.
Part of the challenge really is that communication problem that we come across. We're trying to find ways to be more communicative about our efforts. One of the things that we started doing several months ago is working with our community team to post the monthly number of accounts that have been actioned, to kind of give some of that visibility into the work that
drop a comment and let me know if you actually think this is a good or a bad thing. I can't tell if I think it's
I think bottom line,
really weird.
We recognize that this is a battle, and we recognize that it's a battle that's not going to stop, but we are up to the challenge, This is one that we are not going to stop fighting. The team is committed to it. Our partner teams are committed to it, and we're going to use all the tools at our disposal and our evolving tactics to continue addressing it.
Yeah, I mean, in the technical side of things, we're always looking into different options on how to increase, all of the code and like the systems that we have in place, and it's always part of like our tasks that we always are looking into, and we work really closely with, the modern side of the game too, because to kind of have a concrete and like unified front into this battle.
I may regret saying this, but like, shouldn't they try and speak with Riot about this? Don't they have it so that like you can't even launch Valorant if you haven't got a specific setting enabled in your BIOS on your PC, so that I think a secure boot or something like that. But that technology, coupled with the fact that Riot's Vanguard runs at kernel level, which is super intrusive, and I'm pretty sure it can read like everything in your memory, but the whole point being that they super like go ham on, okay, we got to take away, it's kind of like the Tony Stark thing, we got to take away some of your precious freedoms to keep you safe. I don't know. I don't know where I fall on that. Like, yeah, do it, or is that too far? I don't know. It's just a game. It's just gold. Yeah, but I'm playing it like loads. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but surely there's got to be some cutting edge shit that they can roll in. Surely.
Our next question comes from the BG Hero on the Classic WoW subreddit.
Like GMs. Imagine GMs. That's the most cutting edge shit.
How do you plan to balance factions for World PvP and Season of Discovery?
Yeah, so this is a fun one.
You should totally do faction population locking and just roll up new servers. I've said that now. I can't take it out. I'm not editing it out. I'm not editing this video. I'm just fucking sending it. It is what it is.
I want to start kind of just talking about servers or realms for a second. I don't think a lot of players realize, because we've only talked about it once or twice publicly, but when we were developing hardcore realms, we were actually able to develop quite a bit of technology and new methods to raise the realm caps for the number of concurrent players that we can have connected to a single realm at a time, quite substantially.
Missed that.
So when you look at the number of realms that we launched with on hardcore, it may seem like there's only a couple, but they can actually hold a far greater number of players at a single time than
just like private servers, baby.
We had ever previously been able to achieve on previous classic realms. So that's certainly something that we want to employ when it comes to Season of Discovery. It's kind of like we want to do as few realms as possible while still being able to get everybody in who wants to play. Now that being said, I'm also not an engineer, so Anna, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that or about the PvP side of things.
Yeah, mention faction balance.
I mean, we hope that with these, the population kind of regulates a little bit more, knowing that like with less options to choose from, we have seen this in data before, right? When there's not as many servers to choose from the beginning, kind of like the factions start balancing a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's our hope with all these improvements that we're doing. The other thing too is that the World PvP event that it's currently being developed, well, actually it's ready to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't have long. Can you go and finish it?
25. It actually doesn't start until both factions get to a certain threshold. So we're hoping that when the event starts, it's going to be at a balanced place and a balanced battle. And
so that world event for like the PvP that takes over the whole zone for Ashenvale won't be kicking off until we reach it, like both factions have reached a certain threshold. That is huge.
Of course, we're going to be keeping a close eye on it and just making sure, like, hey, is this working? Do we need to do any adjustments to the World PvP event that might help that balance and keep that balance and making it fun, right? Like, because we want it to be fun.
Honestly, we've got such a good deal here, being classic handies.
Keeping an eye on the server population, plus also the new events and all of those kind of things, and keeping the faction balance on mind.
I look forward to watching those streams on that World PvP event.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
And that's like what's so much fun about Classic.
I'm gonna die a lot.
It's like I think of PvP in Classic as being like World PvP and those like epic battles with a bunch of people out there in the world. So it's
Warcraft movies, yeah.
It's gonna be really fun.
They didn't say anything about actually balancing the factions themselves. Just that having like 2 options or less options means that people end up roundabout kind of self-regulating it. I mean, I haven't checked the numbers for the hardcore servers that we've got at the moment, but with the naming convention, that like people pretty much just aligned them to, okay, Stitches is Horde, or it's Alliance or whatever, So like, yeah, I don't know. I would have liked a better answer, but I can appreciate that they've already done as much as they can for now. There must be more though. I genuinely think having it so that it just says, okay, you can't make an Alliance character on this server for a while. It's fine. New World does it with their servers. They're like, okay, you can't transfer to this server because it's a new experience only or whatever. Or we've locked this server now. You need to make on that over here or whatever. Like, it just, yeah. And Blizzard are no strangers to locking servers. This happened before. Just do it again, but for a specific faction until it balances out.
Very excited.
Our next question comes from Arithma from the Guild After Dark. Are there any plans to buff and or tune both instance and open world content to make up for the large number of buffs coming to every class?
Again, a question that I've answered in my other video, but still.
Yes, absolutely. We want the world of Classic to feel both exciting and challenging to players. And especially as we're adding new content to the open world, really encouraging people to go into all the nooks and crannies of different zones, looking for these new runes. Players are going to get a decent amount of power from those runes, and so we want to not one-to-one counterbalance the difficulty of outdoor content. We want players to feel an increase in power, but we within reason.
Yeah.
So where it's appropriate, we have the power to adjust the HP
how many runes
and the damage of creatures in the outdoor world. Now, as for tuning of our raids, we also...
A big thing to note is that they are actually focusing on the damage more than the HP. So, they don't want it to be like, okay, you pulled 5 mobs, you're fine. Like, no, 5 mobs will kill you. Don't worry about it. Like, they're not just going to be like, okay, just make them so that they are huge health pools and take ages as like a counteract. That's not the method they're going for. I think they're going for damage over HP. At least that's what I have gathered from other answers from BlizzCon.
So we also want our raids to be challenging. We also want them to be approachable, but especially for rewards, we want to make really cool items and rewards for people to be excited about and go after in these dungeons. And so we want the challenge of the bosses to reflect the power of the rewards that we're handing out.
Our next question comes from RoarG90 on the WoW Classic subreddit. Is there a possibility we can see two-handed enhancement shaman viable as DPS?
So this, I think this is an interesting one because not that I have actually allowed myself to read all of the data mining stuff, but from comments that I have seen around it, people are saying that they've gone so ham with the dual wield and lava lash combo. Is it lava lash? Whatever. Of enhancement shaman with the runes that two-handed then got no love. So it's a bit of a weird one. They're like, oh, we want both.
The modifications necessary to make both. There's a lot of modifications necessary to make both two-handed enhancement shamans and dual-wield enhancement shamans viable.
Right.
For Season of Discovery in particular, we've focused more on modeling after the Burning Crusade version of enhancement shaman. So we're keying off of runes like Lava Lash and
okay, yeah, there you go. That's what I've been hearing and seeing a lot of talk about.
Shaman working properly, we'd probably have to add like a 5th rune to some of the armor slots to make that work. You know, that's not in our plans currently, but it's an intriguing possibility.
Plenty of time to tee it up.
You know, on the Classic team, we're always listening to feedback of our players, so if that's something that players are
My boy
passionate
Billy
about
was a
and
shaman
want,
and
please tell
got
us.
Hand of Rag in our guild and made
Just you wait.
Wind Fury proc.
Our next question comes from Beth
We need
F
it again.
on Senjin.
Again.
Will there be a Scarlet Monastery raid?
Yes,
You know,
we teased it.
the content that we mistakenly teased at BlizzCon, it really represents just a huge aspirations that we have on the Classic team.
He's not confirmed as a raid.
The treatment that we
Fuck.
gave the Black Fathom Deeps raid, it represents just what we're willing to do to existing content.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for players to be able to see our discoveries that they didn't get to see at the convention or BlizzCon, because they're really a great example of the level of detail and care and love that we're putting into making brand new content. And all of that to say, there's a deep desire among us on the Classic team to make brand new, never before seen Classic raid content.
He's
for
gone
Season of
around
Discovery.
it.
There's nothing to announce at this time, but
Come
we're
on.
definitely excited and have big aspirations.
Please.
Our
don't
next
do
question
this.
comes from Felich on Kazakh. In Season of Discovery, will I be able to find runes that make Smite Holy Priest DPS viable, or is Holy Disc meant to be healers?
Yeah, I mean, that's
question.
one of the beauties of
It's gotta be
Season
on
of
the way.
Discovery and like having all these rune systems is that the runes are not specialized depending on what talents you choose.
Yeah.
So there's like certain runes that if you read about them, they're more like DPS focused, like homunculus. And then there's other ones that are more healer-based focus, like
Yeah, but there's no
Penance
reason why you
or,
can't take them. Yeah,
Prayer
yeah.
of Mending, right?
Break them out. Fuck them out.
But the idea is that you
yeah.
can mix and match them all, right? So you can be a disciplined priest or a holy priest and go and pick the more on the shadowy side, on the DPS side, and there's nothing stopping you. So you.
Here's a way that I've thought about it. It's like if there's 5 of us playing all together and none of us want to play a healer, and we're like, right, okay, well, if one of us specs like runes into being as tanky as possible, you be the tank, the rest of us are DPS, but we all take like something that allows us to do some kind of healing, could 4 really like just 1 rune of healing on 4 classes, would that amount to the throughput required for a healer? And then we've all just got to be like, right, okay, everyone be super hot on it. If you see someone take damage, just do your heal button thing. We've all got it bound to the same key. Just fucking press it. See what happens. Like, man, I'm looking forward to how wild Discoveries could be.
You can go and still heal with your abilities, but then also pick some of the DPS ones and still have
Yeah, you
the
could have a
same
bit of
ability
bit of
level
this,
them.
bit of
And
that,
on the opposite
bit of
side
this.
too, right? If you're playing a Shadow Priest, maybe you also want to have a penance here and there and like play with
Yeah,
it, and maybe
that'd
you're
be sick.
even more of a hybrid of a healer / DPS.
I like it.
Our next question comes from Marcos from the guild From the Ashes. I heard on a stream that with Season of Discovery, the sky is the limit. If so, what is the most radical change you'd be willing to implement?
Big question.
It's a great question, Marcos.
See if we get an answer.
You know, we really want to double down on the philosophy of the world as the main character in Season of Discovery. And, you know, the beauty of getting to work on level-banded content phases as a designer is that we get to focus on one section of the game at a time as it's relevant to players while they're leveling up. And whether that content, you know, manifests itself as outdoor world PvP or new world bosses, new rewards, new contests, we're gonna do our best to figure out where that content fits best within our new level banded content phases.
Sick.
Our
Okay.
next question
Not
comes from
a solid
Viobrax
answer,
on
but
the EU server Stormreaver. For the season server, will racials be rebalanced?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Racials are incredibly important to, solidifying the fantasy of the character that you're playing. Whether you're a Tauren with Warstomp or an Undead with Will of the Forsaken, it really defines
those shouldn't be changed.
your character.
But what should be changed is weapon skill. Let's see if he talks about it. And then if not, I'll go off on it for a sec.
At the same time, we know that a lot of people choose certain races because it's the optimal choice, and we know our classic players, they love choosing the optimal choice. So with that said, we're not going to do anything specifically to racials as they currently exist on characters. However, some of the things that players rely on racials to do, certain stat bonuses like weapon skill that orcs and humans get with axes and swords and maces. We aim to assist with where people have access to those stats through the rewards in our level up raids and discoveries that people find while leveling. So people won't feel forced to, get the Edgemaster's handguards.
There you go. He said it. He did it. He knows. He's one of us. You haven't got to farm out an Edgemasters or fork over gold, mate. Well, I say farm out. I mean, who actually was able to target farm and Edgemasters? But you know what I'm saying? Wow, huge. Okay, so there's just going to be weapon skill on dungeon raid rewards throughout that will help balance out and can get picked up to accommodate that. Banging.
Viable if you chose.
I'm still going to get an
Edgies, you want
though.
To play because you like their racial abilities or you just like how they look. Another topic on the point of racial abilities is priests. Priests have a wide variety of unique racial abilities specific to their race and class.
Just sick.
And, one of the things that we haven't really gotten into details about in Season of Discovery are the rune acquisitions themselves and how some classes have some very unique ceremony associated with learning their runes. And priests are one of those. They'll be encouraged to go into the world and learn about the religions and the faiths of the different races of Azeroth. And so,
interestingly, I know all about this.
Level 25 phase, but in future phases, we're open to exploring.
And it's in my other video that you should definitely go and watch.
Priests perhaps getting access to the priest racials of other races.
Sick.
In the journey of that religious exploration that they have.
Yeah, sick. That's good.
All right,
I
we
like
have one
that.
last question, and this is from Tyranny533 on the Classic WoW subreddit. Will Season of Discovery end with server wipes like Season of Mastery, or will servers stay open for future content once the level 60 phase is out?
Again, something I've already touched on, but it's good to have the answer again.
We're really excited to have the level content phasing that we're planning for Season of Discovery. So we're really hoping to get an idea of how players are interacting with the content through this. I mean, right now, it is a season, right? So it is set up to be temporary. We always guarantee you that you're gonna be able to keep the characters that you create one way or another. How that's gonna look, it's not solidified yet. We're still talking and we're gonna be seeing, as I mentioned, monitoring through all these phases, seeing how people are engaging, see what people love the most. So then we can find these characters a place, right? So keeping an eye on it. We don't have final plans on it, but we guarantee you that your character is going to be able to go one way or another. And of course, if there's like something that everybody just loves so much and they don't want to see gone, we're definitely going to talk about different options on how we can allow players to keep having the fun that they're having. Yeah.
That wraps up our Q&A session. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, so that all but still again confirms it ties in even better with the last two questions that are in the video that I keep on saying you should go and watch. But basically, that's one of the other things that it just makes it so apparent that this is the path that we take to get to the ultimate version of Classic Plus that we're all kind of vibing on the same, you know, desire for, which is, I think, to have every class that has a spec that fills a role to be able to be competitive and proficient in that role. So Paladin should be able to tank in Pro, no problem. And things like that. And like, you know, a Boomkin should be able to DPS without going completely and requiring like innovates on cycle and whatever, things like that, right? So that plus new things to do whilst we level up, which it sounds like they're already getting into the flow of creating and planning out. Perfect. All the usual raids, but with some brand new bits that we can interact with that may make it a hard mode or a challenge mode, or I didn't even know, whatever, right? We're just spitballing. But then to arrive at, okay, now we've got brand new content at 60 endgame. We've got new quest lines. There will obviously be new things to do on the way up, then at endgame as well. That's it. That is surely like, and rated battlegrounds. And then I think, is that not the dream? It sounds like we're on our way to the dream. We're living the dream. We're living the dream. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe for more. And yeah, I was mad lazy. I've just done a reaction to this because I just think the idea of me editing up another video where I'm just talking about things that people are already talking about is just a little bit too much talking about stuff, you know? Anyway, see you in the next one. Peace!